What's going on, YouTube? Thanks for tuning back into another video. Right behind me I have the Integra on the jack stands as well as the Integra on the shirt. If you have this shirt, you got that limited edition drop a couple months ago. So today's video we are kind of going over what we're going to be doing for the engine bay and starting a little bit of it. Somebody asked in the last video when I was moving stuff around the garage why I didn't turn on the Integra as I was moving around. You probably are new to the channel if you're asking questions like that. The car hasn't ran since November. We had a little engine failure at the track, so we're completely rebuilding the car, and honestly I just really lacked motivation to get it done earlier this year, and we were focusing at that time on the CRX right there. So for today's video, I actually just left Harbor Freight and Home Depot, which I'll add the clips in right here. Alright y'all, just pulled up at Harbor Freight right now, about to go check out some of the welders that they have. Because it's about time that I get something. Even if it's a little cheap welder for the time being, it doesn't have to be anything special for the engine bay. It's not thick metal or anything. So yeah, let's go check out what they have. Good, better. You know, I'm going with just the good one. So there are some different varieties over here. This is like your basic Flux 125 welder, 120 bucks. Pretty much the cheapest of the cheap. If you're on a really big budget and need to like tack weld something or spot weld something on together, I guess that can work. We're actually going to be going with this one, 179. It's like the next step up from the lowest, but I see people have had success with these online, and if I'm not mistaken, you can actually add gas if you need to in the future, which probably it's like zip tied to the ground right now, but I wanted to open up this back panel. I'm pretty sure you can add gas to it if you end up going with that route in the future. But for the time being, it'll just be, oh yeah, so it's MIG or flux core. We'll just do the flux core wire feed for the time being, which is this right here, gasless flux core welding. So it should be good. 179, about to grab one of those. I already have some of the other stuff that I need at home, so yeah, should be pretty set to go after just buying that right there, going back home. So this is pretty cool. It actually comes with a wire brush, a chip and handle combo, shield, as well as 3 different tips and a pound of flex core wire. So that's pretty cool. Gonna go home and put it straight to the test. I'm also getting these 4-piece magnets. So basically once I line up some of the metal, if I can't put a clamp around it or something, or if I'm welding a flat piece or a flush piece onto an opening, like if I were to weld a circle onto there, I can put the magnet over top and just hold it in place while I weld it. So these are going to come in handy, keep everything nice and aligned. Quick stop at Home Depot. Alright, here we have a 4x24 steel, 16 gauge, so this should be good for the engine bay prep. And we are going to put this to the test. A little bit of acetone as well, just to clean up the area before we actually weld on it. And having picked up those things like the sheet of metal as well as the welder, we really want to start doing stuff to the engine bay. Although this is a race car, we want to give it kind of like that show car atmosphere, in the sense that we'll have like a shaved bay and whatnot. So things like this right here, we're going to box in completely, box in the sides as well for both sides of it, and really make it aesthetically pleasing under the hood. Obviously I have the welder that I picked up right here, but not having a 220 plug in the house already is kind of a pain. I have this 220 extension that I was going to use for the dryer outlet, but the dryer outlet is actually a lot different from what this is. I thought it would have been just plug and play, but it's not. Thankfully though, right here I have the breaker, so it's going to be really easy to just add a 220 somewhere around here. I'll probably get that done tomorrow or the day after. In the meanwhile, we can start doing something for the engine bay that I really want to do. Essentially, this big sheet of metal is what's going to be used to box in these corners of the engine bay, around right here and right there. So it'll look a lot nicer, but I actually have this big piece of paper, like poster paper, whatever you want to call it. It's kind of banged up, but it'll serve its purpose, which we're going to use some scissors and cut out some templates to actually start making sure that everything is like a template of what we're going to weld on here. Obviously I'm going to start off by taking the bumper off and the headlights as well. I'm not going to record that. You guys know how easy it is. Just in my case, the headlights are just 2 10mm bolts, and the bumper I just had on some zip ties. So I can pull that off real quick, and then I'll start cutting off these little pieces and making the templates for it. And I also just opened up the garage right now because I noticed that it was really dark on that first clip. So yeah, going over what I'm going to be doing again, boxing in this section, that section as well, this side and the top as well, so that way the whole engine bay just looks really nice and shaved. Once we get there to that point of actually putting everything into the car, it's gonna look like a show car basically. Obviously when we get to the welding portion of everything, we're gonna have to grind down all the paint, and since this is gonna be a shaved look, we're actually gonna get rid of all the paint so then we can have Bondo on the areas that need it and shave it down correspondingly. Right now all I want to do is do the templates right there and cut out the metal pieces that I'll be laying over. Like I said, since my welder can't be used right now, even though I just bought it this morning and I'm super happy to get put that to the use, well, you know, we will have to work with what we have. Alright, here's a little bit of a better view now that the bumper is off and the headlights are put away. This is essentially what we're going to be doing. Boxing this bottom portion right there, as well as all of this, make it a nice clean look. And before we start with actually making a template, I am going to cut down little things like this right here. If it'll focus, it's essentially just a welded on nut from the factory, both on that side as well as this side. Essentially what that is so you could thread something on from the bottom. That would be like an M6 thread if I'm not mistaken. And not necessarily that it's something that we're not going to be using, not necessarily we won't have bolt holes, but we need that to be nice and flush so the metal piece that we put over top of this can be really flush and have that nice, sleek, clean look. Alright, we're going to get cut into that first nut. Well, I'd be lying if I said that I did well on that first one. In all reality, I actually didn't do very good on it, but considering this is the first side that we're working on and this is all going to be covered, I'm not really too worried about it. That's the little piece that I actually shaved off right there. That's trash. We'll sweep everything up later. Now I'm going to move over to this side, and wherever I find those little types of nuts or anything that needs to be cut off, then I'll go ahead and do the necessary thing and get everything as nice and smooth as possible all along. The second one cut much better, a lot smoother. Obviously this isn't clean or anything, but it did the job right there. Now I'll get the piece of paper and actually start cutting out some templates and laying over and adjusting as needed. Alright, here's basically rough cut one. You can see that I line up the edge to the motor mount edge right there. Then kind of gave it a little bit of the curve around that section right here. Left a little spot open for this portion. Really just like worked it around that corner and left a little bit hanging off of that edge right there. The idea of this isn't to basically have a perfect fit, in my opinion at least. And then again, the metal that we're using, I think it's only 16 gauge, so it's thin enough that with a little hammer, you can kind of like bend it, or just with some pliers, bend it to how you want it. And then after that, obviously, we're going to be doing Bondo around the edges and whatnot. So I think that this is a pretty good rough cut for that side. For this portion, I'm not sure if I'm going to do a full cover right there. I know it would look really good, but I'm still debating it right now. I don't know. I'll get this one cut out right now, and then I'll lay that over and then see how I feel about doing the top portion possibly. So I have my first portion done. You can see the big cutout that I did right there. And then all the extra little cuts that I had to trim off little by little, just adjusting how I like it and how I want it to sit. Before I do the reveal, there's how it is originally. Then with. Obviously this isn't the final product, but oh my gosh, look at that. Flat, no holes, no curves. Obviously because we haven't shaved or shaped the rest, but I think that's going to be awesome. It ends right there. If I push it in, it's right at the lip, so then I'll be able to weld right on there and then do it like grind it down and make it a nice curve. The motor mount part right there fits perfectly, so once that's welded and ground down, it's gonna be, wow, I keep on cutting myself. It's gonna be basically flush with the engine mount right there. Then the little portions right there we can basically weld in and then grind. So it's definitely gonna be a lot of work. Then I'll have to weld in and grind right there as well. The whole lip right there. But just from looking at it, like, oh my gosh, look how nice that looks compared to before, obviously. OEM and with the plate. Obviously, like I said, this isn't going to be welded in today because I still don't have that 220 outlet, but I am going to start cleaning up these edges because they are super sharp. If you guys can see right there, it's got some nasty edges on it. For that, I'm just going to knock it down with a little grinding wheel and get it prepped up for when we actually do want to weld this on. I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to clean the whole area right here down to bare metal because obviously I don't want it to corrode underneath. I might end up just doing the corners and about ½ an inch in or an inch in on where the welds are going to be. So basically I might just clean up right there, and then leave the paint in the center section. I'm not 100% sure yet. I'm still new to welding. I'm trying to pick this up and learn how I can doing this at home, you know. But man, I am in love with this little piece. This piece, all in all, after like cutting and recutting and shaping and whatnot, I want to say that piece alone took me about 20 minutes. And I know if I do this portion right here, given that there's a lot more curve to everything, it's probably going to take at least another 30 minutes to an hour just to do that one. But man, I think it's definitely worth the work because that just looks, it changes the whole aspect of the engine bay. Let's just leave it at that. All right, so I have the second template already drawn out. It's going to be for this corner right here. I also shaved off an extra weld-on nut that was right there. So that's nice and smooth, both right there and right there. Obviously, there's going to be a gap right underneath there, but that's not going to be an issue. I'm not going to line it up all the way right now just because it's kind of hard with one hand and the camera, but essentially, it's a little out of place, but that's how it's going to be. I'm just going to do my rough cut right now. Just got done tracing it out on this piece of metal, so I'm gonna go start cutting that right now and yeah, show you how it looks, the rough cut. Guys, here is the second cut, rough cut actually, but the second panel. As you can see, I did mark a few areas like trim right there. Well, it doesn't focus right now. Trim right there, bend in that box, trim a little bit more right there. So I'm trying to get like a nice feel for like the curves that I want to use. So obviously that's just the rough cut right there. But I think it's going to be looking really good once it's ready to weld in because it changes dramatically from that huge gap to this nice plate. So I'm going to put this in the vise real quick, see if I can bend the areas that I need and trim over the other pieces and see if it'll fit a little bit better. We have the second template already placed on here, well, the actual sheet that we're going to use, excuse me, and I just have some C-clamps right there holding it in place. I was doing the bends that I needed on the vise, but I have it very poorly mounted on this composite wood, and it decided to give out on me. I also took out the passenger side fender just so I can actually get those C-clamps on, and right now it's kind of just holding it in place while I look at what I need to adjust and whatnot. And I decided I need to trim a little bit right down there, and then I'll be able to knock the down part in a little bit, as well as trim the front right there on the bottom plate. All right, so I just made the the third template, which is right there. It's gonna sit covering this big hole where the wiper washer fluid normally sits. And I got it traced out for the corners as well. That should be pretty good. Now all I have to do is, like before, trace onto my sheet of metal and cut that out. Sweet, so I think it is looking pretty good. I have the C-clamps resting right now on the second template that we made, or the second plate, excuse me. That way it can just kind of curve overnight. I'm not gonna start welding right now. It is getting kind of late and I do have to head out of the house right now. But between the first, second, and third plate, I am pretty happy with it. If you guys follow me on Instagram at Slowintegra, you can see kind of a progression of cutting and fitting and everything. Although I did some time lapse earlier, right there I have a little more in depth. I usually go Instagram live and try to show those things when I'm doing while recording as well. As for the welder, oh, and by the way, the dude who was saying the other day that I was congratulations on me because I didn't say as well, I'm sorry, I'm saying it again, but oh well. As well, oh well, whatever. We do have the welder wired up right now, just kind of a temporary solution. Huge thank you to Brandon and helped me out with that. And yeah, that's gonna be in the next couple of videos. We'll actually start welding and using some Bondo to fill in over the welds after grinding them down. But I want to keep this video somewhat short so I can do a video series and not overload everybody all at once with a whole bunch of information. So that pretty much does sum up the video for today. If you have any questions whatsoever about this whole process, make sure to leave them down in the comment section below or send me a DM on Instagram and I'll try to get back as soon as possible to you guys. And that being it, we'll see you on the next video. Peace.